Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christale Spain, the chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Let me start off by saying first that we are proud of the work that we did as a party to engage and turn out Democrats this election cycle. Although we came up short, it's definitely not because of the lack of trying. This cycle, we were laser focused and we ran a very targeted campaign effort without the added value of having a statewide local race like a governor's race or a U.S. Senate race to help drive turnout and fundraising. But since August 10th, the South Carolina Democratic Party has had a sizable direct voter contact effort. We've made over 150,000 volunteer phone calls. And when we include the calls our candidates made, that number jumps to 315,000. We knocked close to 110,000 doors across the state. The state party alone sent 275,000 text messages. And when we include the text messages our campaign sent, that number increases to over 2 million. We have thousands of digital impressions from the digital ads that we purchased. And we mailed over 50,000 handwritten postcards in our targeted districts to targeted voters. And we sent 1.1 million pieces of mail through the state party. So that's mail that the state party sent to our targeted voters, which is a significant effort considering our limited resources. But when it was all said and done, the state party, in coordination with the Democratic Senate and House caucuses, spent over $1.5 million on targeted state House races and Senate races in the state. And we're still kind of working through our final numbers on that. But I'm also deeply appreciative of the work our staff did, our candidates, our county parties, our volunteers, everything that everybody put in this election cycle, and they left it all on the line yesterday afternoon. And despite facing what I'm going to call considerable headwinds with the Donald Trump turnout and gerrymandered districts here in the state, the Democratic Party, we stood up and we fought and we stood strong last night. And we put up a pretty valiant fight. When it comes to the state house, we ended the night the same way we started the night. We started the night with 36 members. We ended the night with 36 members. So don't be confused by what other folks are saying. The Republicans thought, they were saying a lot about who they were going to pick off Heather Bauer. They were going to pick off Spencer Whitmore down in Charleston. They didn't. Heather Bauer kept her seat over in House District 75. In fact, she increased her margin of victory from last time. And Spencer Whitmore in House District 115 kept her seat as well. When it comes to the Senate, we knew that it was going to be a tall order to hang on to all the Senate seats that we needed to keep. And that's why we invested unprecedented resources and fostered an unprecedented cooperative effort between us, the Democratic Party, and the Senate caucuses, and with our local party organizations. And this collective effort is just a testament to the commitment that we all have to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. But here's the deal. We held on to Senate 35 with Jeffrey Graham. He's going to be a new member coming in. We also held on to Senate District 20 with Russell Ott. And we're probably in what is going to be a nail biter of a recount because there's enough provisional ballots over in Fanning's district to make a difference. So we're watching that very closely, and we're waiting to see how that pans out for us. Senator Johnson and Senator Malloy's races were very close. Senator Vernon Stevens put up a very strong fight in a pretty fast-growing district, but he wasn't able to hold on. And the reality is here, we worked hard, we spent money, but we came up short. And we're going to continue to do the work here as a state party to engage our voters this election cycle to prepare for the next election cycle. And with that, I'm willing to take any questions that you all may have.
Nick.
I can unmute here. All right, great. And Christale, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. I had a specific question, and it's about a specific race, but it kind of speaks to a larger trend I kind of noticed on election day. I went to a couple different precincts around Richland and Lexington County, mostly talking to Black voters and seeing who they're voting for and why. a large number of people I spoke to, seemed to either be voting for Trump or said that they wanted to vote for Trump, but something changed their mind. But it seemed like a really, really high propensity of conservative black voters yesterday. And to the point about Vernon Stevens, I know that district's been fast growing, but the BVAP was still somewhere around 40%. And he ended up losing by a couple hundred votes there. Was talking to some strategists who'd done a lot of work on Democratic campaigns, and they said that the state party was missing the mark on messaging to Black voters, particularly in rural areas. And was wondering what you make of those remarks. And I guess I'm just wondering your thoughts on the trend and why it's going that direction.
I don't think that's true. I think that, like I said, Trump ended up having a pretty strong tailwinds last night. And like I said, our races were targeted. So we were talking to the voters in the districts. We didn't have one big blanket message, especially in the Senate. Those messages were really research driven. So I really don't, I can't say that that was the case. I really feel like a lot of our races couldn't hold on just because of the tremendous turnout on the Trump, with the Trump being at the top of the ticket.
Gotcha. And on the financial side too, I remember particularly in the Gerald Malloy race, I believe he outspent his opponent like by a ratio of 5 to 1. I know that there was some outside spending in some of these races too, but it seemed like Democrats, really cleaned up fundraising wise, and it didn't really pan out as far as results. And was, curious about your thoughts on that as well.
I hadn't dug deep to see about the spending individually with the candidates. I feel like when we get into those rural areas, things are just a little bit different over there. And I think that, the districts too, I don't want to understate how these districts may look on paper versus what they really are in reality. I really feel like they're gerrymandered and they're not Democratic seats. They are swing seats. And we saw that last night. So I do believe that some of our senators are victims of this gerrymandering in the Senate.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe Bustos.
Hey, Chairwoman Spain, thanks for doing this. First thing, do you plan on running for re-election next year?
So, Bustos, you're one of my favorite people. When I see you, I just always feel like it's going to be a beautiful question. Yes, I plan on re-election.
It was a tough night. I figured might as well ask it, get it out of the way. I asked Drew this morning as well if he was going to run for re-election. He said yes. So maybe we'll get a rematch in 2 years between the we'll see what happens in next election. And the other thing, because of what this is the first election we had with the new Senate districts and the new gerrymander districts. Is 14 or 12 the potential cap for Democratic Senate seats for the rest of the decade?
I don't want to answer that question. Like I still want to dig through those numbers. Um, and I don't want to believe that there's a cap. I don't want to, I still believe in South Carolina voters. I still believe in our rural voters. And I think that there's opportunity there for us, even though we lost, it's not fatal, right? It's not this final death shot. There's still opportunity for us to do a lot of work next cycle. And I think that engaging rural voters has to be right there with engaging our Black voters. So I don't want to say that there's a cap. I think that just creates more opportunity for us to do more work.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Oh, I'm falling down the job. Abraham Kenmore, you're next.
Hi. So this isn't something that you really brought up that much, but in terms of the congressional races, Michael Moore and Catherine Harvey both raised a lot of money, ran really hard races, didn't really move the margins much in those districts. Looking at this session, what does that mean for Democrats running in for Congress? And does that have any effect on the down ballot state house races in those, in the upstate and low country?
I don't know if I understand your questions, Abraham. Can you restate it?
Basically, what does
Abraham, I can't hear you. Is that me?
yeah, I got muted.
Yeah.
What does last night mean for Democratic prospects in terms of challenging particularly the first districts going forward for Congress?
I think that we fare better in midterm cycles. So I don't want to say that, this is a presidential cycle with the Trump effect on the ticket. Like you said, Catherine Harvey ran a tremendous campaign in the upstate. Victory for us, I think, would have looked like her getting close to 40%. She fell a little bit short. And Michael Moore also, had a really valiant effort as well. I just think that we have to keep chomping away at it. Like we have to keep running candidates. We don't benefit from not running candidates. I believe that creates voter apathy in places where we can't afford to have apathetic voters. We didn't have the luxury of resources to really invest in our congressional races this cycle, but hopefully, next cycle will be something different and we'll be able to do this effort on a larger scale. So no, I don't want to, we're not conceding anything. Like I said, this was a pretty heavy shot, but it's not fatal. We're still here. We're still fighting. Does that answer your question, Abraham? And I think I might have lost you again.
Yes, thank you.
Is that everybody?
Joe,
Got a question from Live 5 here in Charleston. Looking at the presidential race, at least the results coming out of Charleston County, Kamala narrowly pulled it 51 to 49, but the Democratic candidates, at least Kristen Graziano, the incumbent, was unable to hold on to her seat, and the Democratic candidate for coroner, Frank Brocklow, was unable to flip the Republican coroner seat. Why is that? And are y'all looking to reevaluate your strategy campaigning in Charleston?
I don't want to say reevaluate. I think we need to do more in a lot of places. But I do believe, just we haven't gone through all the numbers and dug through them all by county. But I know we saw a lot of just our preliminary analysis down in Charleston. We saw a lot of dropout voters in Charleston County that didn't benefit the down ballot. So, that's definitely a reevaluation of our strategy as far as like making sure that we are promoting finishing the ballot in every county, not just in Charleston, but we did just preliminarily, I did see that we had a significant amount of voters that voted for Kamala and went home. They didn't complete their ballot.
All right, thank you.
I don't know if Jay is still there. Let's
I'm
go.
here.
But then we got some hands.
Oh, Nick, sorry, I'm not paying attention. Nick and then Joe.
Oh, you're all good, Jay. I know it was a long night, so.
I know we're all delirious.
Again, pulling from this, the conversations I've had with some Democratic strategists, they were, particularly younger ones that I spoke to, and they're talking about the types of candidates that are running, and who really helps to determine on the ground messaging for South Carolina Democrats. And I think there's been some lingering tensions over the years. One of relinquishing maybe seniority in the party to, a younger or, more rising generation. I know that the party has been trying to showcase some of the younger and newer candidates on the trail a little bit more, but there still is a sense that there is a generation that's maybe refusing to let go in some sense, and that might be costing the party to some degree. And that this year's election results might be a breaking point in that conversation. I'm just kind of curious how you feel about that, and maybe how the party is working to promote the bench it has moving forward.
As Kamala mentioned all the time, she was going to be a new generation of leadership. If you're talking about nationally, here locally, I am a new generation of leadership here at the party. And yeah, I do believe that we need to make sure that we're not just highlighting our bench, but we're working to make sure that they are included in everything that we're doing. And we absolutely tried to do that this cycle. I don't know if I exactly get your question, Nick, but I hope I'm on the right path to answering it. But we do believe in making sure that it's just not diversity of race and gender, but also diversity of generations and everything that the party does.
Yeah, I get a sense of that. I guess, like, and maybe this is like an extension of observations that were made in the presidential race as well. But, I know that there's been some Monday morning quarterbacking of, maybe the Harris campaign backing off of some of the economic populism messaging that could have been helpful, backing away from, more progressive policy points that had proven popular with voters, across the aisle in previous elections. I think Medicare for all was, something that, people had targeted previously as, a possible winning message that completely disappeared from the platform this year.
Mhm.
And I just wonder if there might be a willingness to maybe revisit what some of the party's policy priorities are moving forward after the results of this year's election.
I feel like always, I think when you lose or even when you win, you should be reevaluating things all the time. And just I can't really speak from a national party perspective, but here locally, I do believe that, our messaging, we talked about the economy, we talked about healthcare. Um, but for us, I believe it's getting it out, like making sure that we're reaching those voters. We're getting outside of the bubble. Yes, we did phone calls. It probably wasn't enough phone calls. We need to do more and more and more and more. And I don't know if we have yet to had we didn't, we've had it in the past, but not this cycle, had enough resources to really disseminate the message that we needed to disseminate on the scale that we needed to, with the scale of voters we needed to reach.
All right, got you. Thank you.
Uh, Claire will do Claire and then Joe. Does that work?
Thank you. I would just ask what the message would be to Democratic voters who might be wondering if the party still has some life in it, what the future of the party looks like.
What would be the message to see if we have any life? We're here. I'm alive, Claire. I mean, the message is this: like we are in South Carolina, and we go from heavily gerrymandered districts to even more heavily gerrymandered districts, and it could be it makes it difficult for us to recruit serious candidates, those folks who we know would be great elected officials, because nobody wants to win and lose. I mean, but the message is here. We're not giving up. There's a Winston Churchill quote that I'm trying to recall to my memory while we're talking, but we're still here. We're not gonna, give up. As folks say all the time, tough people are built for tough times, and we are heading into tough times. I'm tough people. Jay's tough people. Democrats are tough people, and we're gonna keep fighting. We're not conceding. Hey, we lost some races, but we damn sure tried not to lose them. We fought, and we're gonna fight again. It's not over.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairwoman, I want to go back to some of the House seats, especially specifically the three House seats that are in Clyburn's district: the Fawn Petalino seat, the what was the Matt Lieber seat, and then Bill Hager seat. Those were hoped. I know Democratic Party hoped you'd be able to flip those back. Because they didn't flip this time around, are those now permanently lost to the Democratic Party?
No, absolutely not. Like I just said, we're going back after them again. I do believe that those are Democratic seats, and we've got to do more. We got to do more, and we got to keep running Democrats in those seats to get them back. I feel like they had the luxury of the Trump tailwinds, and that helped put them over the top. But we're not going to give up on those seats. I don't know if Jay's still here.
I'm
Abraham,
here. I'm here. I'm here.
is John
Uh,
here?
Hold on. I'm just scrolling through.
I think it's Abraham.
Hey, ready to go. Yep.
So I know at the beginning of the year, we kicked off South Carolina as first in the nation for the Democrats. There was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of effort to try and get people out to vote. In 4 years, do you think South Carolina is going to be first in the nation for the party again?
Yeah, I'm going to say yeah. We're going to fight to stay. We're fighting over here, Abraham. We're fighting for everything. We're going to fight to stay first. Yes, we're going to keep working, keep lifting our name up, keep making sure that we're doing everything that we can to stay in that first spot, because it definitely will be a tremendous added benefit in 4 years.
Any other questions, thoughts?
I know you had candidates or potential 2028 candidates show up ahead of the Democratic primary. Who's going to be first to show up in South Carolina in the next year?
I don't know, Joe. You tell me. You've been all over the state traveling, all over the country traveling. You tell me who you bumped into in New Hampshire. Who I don't know. I don't even have a thought in my head at the moment who would be first. But we'll take them. We'll take them.
Could I ask just a quick follow-up to the question about First in the Nation? Last night DNC announced that they spent about $900,000 in South Carolina as part of that First in the Nation, among other things. And you mentioned a couple times, came up short on resources. What would adequate resources on a state and national investment have looked like or will look like in 2 years?
It depends on what we're going after. We needed a couple of $1 million to go up to try to flip those seats and to hold our Senate seats. Jay may have a better number, but at least $5 million, and I think is what we need in this type of climate to do the direct voter contact that we need to do at the scale we need to do it at.
I'll agree. It just forces us to spend. Listen, we spent our money very wisely and very well, and so it really made us focus. When you can have, I mean, we rarely in politics believe we can have too much money, right? But we were competitive. Now, just to add one thing, what Christale said about these House seats, this Charlie Murray seat in 116 is neck. I mean, it's just neck and neck. This seat, the last 3 cycles, has been won basically 51-49. This myth that this is an overwhelmingly Democratic seat is just crazy. It is a seat that may have potential Democratic voters in it that may lean. It may on paper look more, but you have to look at the people that actually turn out to vote, and that's the challenge. In 122, Jasper County is changing dramatically. Jasper County doesn't look anything like it did 4 years ago, and so we came up short. We had a great candidate. We put a ton of money there. We spent a lot of time. We talked to a lot of voters, and Jasper County has changed, and we have to reflect that. And so it means we start earlier. We have to do a lot more voter contact and talk to people. And same for let me tell you, the money they spent in 64 against our candidate to try to retain Fawn Petalino was just outrageous. I don't know how many out-of-state mailers we saw over there. They weren't all paid for by the SCGOP or for her campaign. They started early and they were relentless. And we knew that was an overlap with Senator Johnson, who narrowly lost. So these are not blowouts. These are competitive seats. And Republicans love to say, gosh, these are Democratic seats. They are on paper. There may be more people that tend to have voted Democratic or fit a certain mold, but that doesn't mean they really are. Gerald Malloy's district has shifted. I mean, he barely hung on 4 years ago. I don't know why anyone is shocked that became a competitive seat. We knew it. And so this is these seats, these were not blowouts. We did our best to save Joe Jefferson. I mean, we poured it all in a district that looks nothing like it used to. And so these races were closer than I think the Republicans will tend to lead you to believe. And instead of calling them Democratic seats, Christale said it, they're swing districts. And we have to approach them as swing districts, not as a Democratic district where we're just simply turning out Democrats. And we did our best. We're not really built for that. A lot of these folks aren't. That's a whole different way of campaigning. And People like Heather Bauer and Spencer Wetmore have showed us how to do it, and we're going to continue to do it. But it's same thing for District 12. It's a narrow loss over there. McCormick County we knew it's changing. We knew it was going to be tough. But again, on paper, they'll say, "Oh, this is sort of a Democratic seat." Barely, maybe. So we're, aside from disappointed, which we are. I've been here since 2007, off and on. I've never seen this kind of an effort to try to help our legislative candidates and to try to win seats. Never. And I would point out in 2008, when Barack Obama did better than anyone's done here in a long time in the presidential cycle, we picked up one state house seat. Anton Gunn won one seat in that year. And so this idea, and that's with Obama getting 46% of the vote in South Carolina. So this is, and that's 2 redistrictings ago. But anyway, it's these seats are competitive. We came up short on some of these. We did well on others, and we're going to keep fighting. But from a reporting standpoint, these are not overwhelmingly Democratic seats. These were dogfights all the way through. And sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Unfortunately.
Well, thank y'all for joining us today, because I know Joe is queuing back up for round 6. And he's got Nick and Abraham right behind him. But thank y'all so much for taking the time to join us, and I hope we were able to answer any questions and fill in any gaps that you guys may have had in your reporting.